The New York Rangers are definitely in a pretty bad spot right now as they're coming off of what is definitely, I would say, their worst performance by far of this regular season so far. They came out flat, they looked horrible, and they really and truly just got dominated start to finish by the Tampa Bay Lightning. And we also, just to make things even worse, not only got dominated in this game and lost quite terribly at home to make the home record even worse when it already is the worst in the entire NHL, but we also have now seen, of course, during that game, Adam Fox leave with an injury. So we've got some pretty bad stuff to kind of talk about in today's video. We'll talk a bit about this game against the Lightning, talk about the Foxy injury, and we're also going to discuss, obviously, some more about this team, kind of talk about some statistics and just kind of team stats and stuff like that. But also, we've got some quotes, one from the captain, JT Miller, one from the head coach, Mike Sullivan, after the disappointing loss to the Tampa Bay Lightning, and also we are going to take a look at a bit of an update involving the Hartford Wolfpack in the AHL, of course, as they have a bunch of the New York Rangers prospects, and we did see Saturday Gabe Perreault end up scoring the game winner, so we'll check out how a bunch of those prospects are doing in the AHL later on as well. But starting off here, in the game against Tampa, we saw the expected goals for B in this game from CSA Hockey, 1.41 for the Rangers, and then for the Tampa Bay Lightning, 4.18. But then if you take a look at MoneyPuck.com's expected goals for, this is where things get a little more crazy as they had Tampa at a 6.69 compared to the Rangers only 1.89. So MoneyPuck had them at, 3 times over that, the expected goals for, which is pretty insane there, of course, well over 2 times there, unfortunately. And then, of course, for the actual just, chances there for each team there from CSA Hockey, once again, they had the Rangers high danger chances at 3, medium danger at 2, and low danger at 8, compared to the Lightning's 12 high danger, which is 4 times the Rangers, 5 medium, which is, 2.5 times there, and then over double with the low with 18 compared to 8. So the Rangers just got absolutely dominated in this game. That's pretty clear. This was, just a pretty horrendous performance, and even, the just basic stats there like shots kind of say that in this game where the Rangers definitely did get outplayed. They ended up getting outshot 34-13 in this one. Igor stopped 31-34. We saw Jonas Johansson, the Tampa goalie, stop 12-13. He did not have to deal with a whole lot there. But just in general, this game, was really, really bad for the Rangers. I mean, it's just game after game where we're seeing this team have a pretty massive kind of lack of effort. And we're going to take a look at some quotes in a second here, like I said, from JT and Mike Sullivan. But what they end up saying, or mainly what, JT ends up saying, I really just don't like to hear that because we're just not seeing anything change. Game after game, we're seeing the exact same kind of problems. So, JT is the captain. He can talk all he wants about how this team, isn't playing good enough and isn't giving enough effort or isn't doing this or that. But if nothing ends up changing game after game, you just complaining about it and talking about it means nothing. Something has to actually change there. You can't just keep talking about, needing to be better, you need to do this better. Something actually has to be different, and this team just has to play better hockey. But taking a look at the 2 quotes now, one from JT Miller and one from Mike Sullivan, and they both were posted on X by Vince Mercagliano, as he goes on to say, message coming out of the New York Rangers locker room was about poor effort more than poor execution. JT Miller goes on to say, quote, just will and determination. They were more willful than we were today. They were ready to go into every battle. At no point in that game were we deserving of winning. And that is just not at all what I want to hear from the captain. I mean, it's been game after game now where we're not seeing enough effort. So to hear this means literally nothing to me. I don't care to hear it at all because it's literally game after game. You're seeing the exact same stuff where guys are not playing with enough effort. And that is a big part from a guy like JT Miller. I mean, he's talking about the no effort and, the lack of will and determination and, not being, I guess, ready to go into every battle. And my gosh, JT, you're that guy. You're the one who, or at least one of them, of course, who is not, giving enough effort, who's not playing hard enough. And, as the captain, you're supposed to be leading by example. So to hear all this stuff from JT and to see what he's been doing, I just don't really care to hear it because he himself is not doing a good enough job. And especially as a guy who is supposed to be a superstar for this team, was supposed to be a star player, who's supposed to be one of the top offensive players, a good defensive forward, a guy who brings a lot of energy and toughness and physicality to the lineup there, who can bring some leadership and experience. I mean, he just has not done that so far, and it really is just awful to see because, you got this guy around long term now. He's got quite a few more years left under contract. He just got named the captain this past offseason. Like, he just got named captain not too long ago. So I don't really know where you go from here unless he just figures things out. I mean, we might be in a bit of a rough spot here with JT. I don't know what to say. I thought he'd be a whole lot better. I mean, you see what you saw, I guess, last season, of course, once he joined the team, and he was looking pretty good there. I mean, he joined a pretty disastrous and dysfunctional Rangers team, of course, after the deadline or before the deadline once he came over. And obviously, the Rangers definitely weren't having a great season, but he came in, played some pretty good hockey, I think showed what he can possibly do for the team, and I think played pretty good for the most part. But you see what we have seen so far this season, and of course, it's just been quite terrible where he's not playing good. He's obviously not giving enough effort or playing with enough energy, and part of that maybe is the injury, of course, that he had earlier in preseason and training camp that caused him to miss some time there, of course. But all in all, he's just got to be a whole lot better and has to give a whole lot more effort. And he can say all he wants about that, but he himself has to lead by example and actually do it as he is the captain of this New York Rangers team. And taking a look now at the quote from Mike Sullivan where Vince Bercagliano goes on to say, so how does New York Rangers head coach Mike Sullivan address what the players themselves are calling out as a poor effort? And Mike Sullivan goes on to say, quote, that's something obviously that I'll discuss with my coaching staff moving forward. Obviously, our expectation is higher. I don't think the players by any stretch have intentions of getting outcompeted. Obviously, we've got to find a way to take more pride in that, and that's something that we've got to work through as a group. And I definitely hope they figure it out and they find something different to just get something going. I mean, this team right now, just game after game, it just seems like they're playing dead. They play with little to no effort, not enough energy, and that is exactly what I was hoping a guy like JT Miller was going to bring. Obviously, it has not happened so far, and I'm not going to blame everything on JT, of course, because it's not on him, but I think a big part of what we've seen, this season and last season especially, has just been at moments a lack of life out of this team, and I really did think a guy like JT was going to be able to help with that. I know he's had some, problems in Vancouver and stuff like that, I guess, but I really did think he was going to be a guy who would come in here and just, get the guys going a little more and get them more engaged and, lead by example with that kind of stuff, but obviously it just has not happened so far, and I think that is in large part why this Rangers team has ultimately, so far this season had a pretty bad and disappointing season and definitely could be, by trade deadline time, potentially being sellers, unfortunately. And next up here, taking a look at a bit of an update with the Hartford Wolfpack, and unfortunately, things have not been going too great this season. They're currently 11th at 15 spots in the entire Eastern Conference right now. They've got a record of 7-9-4, 18 points. They've got a points percentage of .45, so obviously, they have not been doing too great. As of late, though, they're doing a little better, I guess you could say. They are on a 2-game winning streak, so there's something. But obviously, like I said, Gabe Perreault got the game winner Saturday night there, so that was kind of nice to see. Obviously, he's doing pretty good. He's the leading point getter for the Wolfpack currently. He also, if you kind of take out the all rookies that don't have at least 10 games played so far this season. If you take a look at the points per game leaders for those rookies with at least 10 games played in the AHL this season, Gabe Perreault is 6th, which is not bad for being on a team that really has struggled to create offense and just be a decent team overall this year. So I think Gabe has done a really good job. He's obviously the top kind of player for that team, but there also are some other prospects that I think have done a, pretty decent job as well. Obviously, Gabe is definitely going to be the top guy on that team. He's the top prospect, the main kind of piece, but there are some other prospects that are doing a pretty good job so far as well. You've got a guy like Brett Berard who had a bit of a slow start, but has started to heat up a little bit more as of late. He's got Currently 9 points, 2 goals, 7 assists in 17 games played. Not too bad. Then you've got Bryce McConnell-Barker and Dylan Rubrek, two pretty good prospects there. Both, centermen. Of course, Dylan is a center slash winger, where Bryce McConnell-Barker is more of that kind of defensive two-way centerman. And they both got, 10 points there in 20 games played. A 0.5 points per game is not bad at all. Dylan's got 6 goals, 4 assists. Bryce has 5 goals, 5 assists. Not bad at all. There are some pretty, talented prospects there, of course. Then you've got a guy like Yaroslav Melash. He's got 18 games played, 3 goals, 6 assists, 9 points. Once again, a 0.5 points per game. Not bad at all. He, of course, missed a couple games there in the AHL because he got the call-up. Then you've got a guy like Brendan Othman who, like Brett Berard, definitely had a bit of a slow start, but has started to heat up a little bit more as of late, where now he's got, a 0.47 points per game. Still not great, but has been doing better as of late. He's got 7 points, 1 goal, 6 assists in 15 games played. And some other prospects, an Adam Sikora right now, not having a great season. He only has 7 points in 20 games played. 4 goals, 3 assists. A little disappointing for sure. You've got a guy like Scott Morrow, who is supposed to be, really great offensive defenseman. Hasn't quite put up the points this season around, where he's only got 3 points, 1 goal, 2 assists in 12 games played. Next, we've got another defense prospect, Jackson Dorrington. He, of course, is a lot more defensive, more of a two-way guy. He's got 4 points, 4 assists in 20 games played. Definitely not nearly as disappointing as a guy like Scott Morrow, who, of course, is supposed to be that offensive defenseman. Next, you've got the goalies here, where at one point you did have 2 goalie prospects in Talon Boyko and Dylan Garand. Of course, Dylan right now is the backup for the Rangers at the NHL level because Quick is out injured, but once he's back healthy, Dylan will revert back to being the starter in the AHL, where he did have 11 games played, a 2.96 goals against average, and a .897 save percentage, so definitely not the best numbers. A 3-6-2 record. The Wolfpack as a whole, though, of course, haven't been too good. Then at one point, Talon Boyko, the big 6'8" goalie prospect, was the backup, having a 3.1 goals against average and a .894 save percentage, but the Rangers decided to send Talon Boyko over to the Top Finnish League, Liga, to play for Kalpa there. So they loaned him out to that team over there in the Top Finnish League, and they ended up signing a goalie from the KHL in Spencer Martin, who has already played 1 game and ended up stopping 35 out of 37 shots he faced. Got the win there, allowed 2 goals, but, not bad at all. .946 save percentage in that 1 game he's played so far. He's, of course, had some experience over in North America before, went over to the KHL, did okay, but ended up losing the starting job, I believe, to a New York Islanders goalie prospect, so decided to, of course, come over here after his contract ended there. I'm not exactly sure what happened. I think it was like mutual termination probably or something. He comes over here, signs with the Rangers, where he's seemingly going to be, a solid kind of number 3 or 4 goalie in the organization. Maybe ends up outperforming a guy like Dylan Garand to be the top call-up option next time around that needs someone, but of course, ended up picking up a solid depth guy in Spencer Martin, and obviously Dylan Garand will continue to be the main guy down there, of course, though, once Jonathan Quick is back healthy. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching today's video. If you have enjoyed, definitely don't forget to click that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content, as I do post a video, of course, about the New York Rangers every single day at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And if you really do want to help the channel out a ton, hitting that like button, the subscribe button, or even commenting down below really does help out a ton. So if you want to do any of that stuff, I would really, really appreciate it. And, definitely, like I said, comment down below your thoughts. I love hearing your thoughts and opinions as, other New York Rangers fans, of course, and especially with how this team has been playing as of late. Let me know your thoughts. Also, what are you thinking about the Wolfpack here? Obviously not having a great season, but there are a few prospects that are doing a pretty good job down there. So let me know your thoughts. I'll catch you next one, and let's go Rangers.